All right, let's cut through the noise and get real for a minute. Yeah, you've been lifting, you've been grinding, but for some reason, you do not feel like you have that look that says, yeah, I lift. I don't blame you though. The standards of looking like you lift are pretty high, much like myself, if you're in the fitness echo chamber. Nowadays, the odd compliment from your peers on your size is pretty much meaningless, and unless you're getting constant validation for your gains, you think you're the smallest thing to ever exist, regardless of the fact that you're legitimately more muscular than a good deal of recreational gym goers. But aside from dealing with your unrealistic standards of what looking like you lift means, the following tips can help you really push your physique to stand out more than if you were just to follow a regular program and lift like a regular lifter. Disclaimer, the following tips are meant for those that are looking to look bigger and more lifter-like in clothes. Let's break it down step by step so you can stop wasting your time and finally start looking like a fridge. Starting with the foundation. As a natty, you can't expect to get substantially bigger and look more like you lift if you're not willing to commit to a serious mass gaining phase, aka a bulk. I've done a detailed video on the 1 year bulk, so feel free to check it out to learn more about bulking. That said, a lean, conservative bulk is almost non-negotiable when trying to make substantial gains as a natty. No, I'm not advocating for you to just gain a shit ton of fat just to look bigger in general. Will you gain a bit of fat in the process? Yeah. Will it be the end of the world? No. Will you suddenly look like you're an obese sedentary person? Definitely not. Get out of your head and escape the fitness industry absurd standards matrix. Even if you look fatter than you previously did, assuming you didn't start bulking at a sky-high body fat percentage, you're just going to look like a built, jacked individual. And you'll still be healthy, functional, and fit too. Gaining a bit of fat alongside muscle over the course of a year and while still engaging in plenty of physical activity is going to have minimal, if any, effects on your health. Foundation aside, let's look at some training adjustments you can make to go from, oh,
look at those arms,
from your auntie at Christmas to, you're a big lad. Comments from the lads and bouncers at your local pub. I know, most of you watching are like, bro, there ain't a local pub here and we never call each other lad. I'd use a US analogy, but since I've never actually lived in the US full time, and given that I am a British citizen and proud resident of the United Kingdom, it would be disingenuous to both the American and British people. But essentially, you want to get to the, nah bro, I'm just trying to be like you sort of level, where there's an instant mutual respect between you and every even remotely big guy in the gym and outside world. I definitely ADHD'd the above, my apologies. So yeah, here are some training adjustments you can make to get that look. Overall, you want to be prioritizing certain muscle groups over others, hitting them with more training volume. No, do not lose your minds. Stop crying, stop screaming at the screen, please. Yes, I said more volume, but hear me out. This is one of those few times where legitimately lowering your training volume and keeping it slightly above minimum effective dose makes sense. No, I'm not saying skip leg day or let your legs shrink. You're still going to be training them hard and they're still going to grow. Just not with the usual balanced approach a regular training program would give you. Keep your leg training volume around 6 to 8, but closer to 6 hard sets for quads, hamstrings, and calves respectively per week, and ensure that you're allocating a few of these sets to compound exercises like the squat and the deadlift so that you can also target your glutes and erectors. Such an approach will give you more recovery capacity to really hammer the rest of your body with more volume, which can potentially allow you to get even bigger, especially if some of the muscle groups that I'm about to mention have not previously responded that much to your usual training. Let's start with your chest. And yeah, if you want to be looking stacked and you want to be, I don't know, like, is that a party trick? Is anybody impressed by what I just did? I feel humiliated. But yeah, if you want to stand out, if you want to get that fridge lifter look, a big chest will definitely help, especially when you're wearing clothes, but obviously when you're not wearing clothes as well. Prioritizing chest training, especially by doing plenty of horizontal pushing, will allow you to also really hammer your triceps and front delts. All that while absolutely annihilating your chest. Overall, volume recommendations will be close for all the muscle groups that I will mention, but I recommend that you start at somewhere 15 to 20 fractional sets for your chest and potentially add a few more sets over time if you feel that your workouts are getting super easy and you're recovering and you could have been doing much more. As far as exercise selection goes, I recommend that you split your volume across the following exercises. Do an incline dumbbell press or use a solid incline chest press machine that allows for a great stretch. Either of those exercises will allow you to, 1, lift pretty heavy, aka stay in the 5 to 10 rep range, ensuring that you're very close to failure for everything. 2, allow for a big stretch on the pecs, potentially more than some barbell variations and shitty machines that you often see in gyms, blah blah blah, long muscle lengths, you know the vibes. 3, allow you to bias the upper chest a bit more. And 4, as mentioned, also hit your front delts and triceps, contributing to arm and shoulder gains. I would also include dumbbell flies. Although not a bang for your buck exercise, dumbbell flies not only allow for a deep stretch on your pecs, but they will also load the stretch more than some machine variations, especially certain shitty pec decks that I've seen out there. Now, and this goes for all exercises, if for any reason you hate the dumbbell fly and want to do machine flies, that's totally fine. Keep in mind, we're geeking out here and making the perfect program on paper, which also aims to placebo you that you're now taking all muscle growth boxes and making insane gains. For example, I am currently blasting my chest and I do not do dumbbell flies because my left shoulder is a bit weird and some exercises bother it more than others. I do machine flies and use the rear delt setting to get a bigger stretch, but I still think overall that the dumbbell fly, if you can do it safely and it feels good, is a slightly better option and for some people much more accessible. I personally recommend doing the flies in the 8 to 12 rep range, not because it's like a magical rep range and doing less reps would be bad, but from my coaching experience, at least slightly higher reps tend to feel a bit more comfortable for people on dumbbell flies than going full on heavy mode and doing sets of 5 and just like going very heavy, especially when setting up. Additionally, including a variety of rep ranges is likely a good no stone left unturned approach when it comes to maximizing muscle growth. No, I'm not saying that you won't make gains if you just do 5 reps on dumbbell flies. Stop typing, stop losing your mind, please. Lastly, I would also recommend doing dips or deficit push-ups in your quest of getting a shelf-like chest. Both exercises allow for a big stretch, but more importantly, they are bodyweight exercises and they are very time efficient, don't require much warming up or setting up. So that may allow you to squeeze in a few more sets and actually get more out of your training. Additionally, if you include a slightly slower eccentric phase and a second pause at the bottom, the amount of reps you can do on any of these exercises will be extremely manageable. If you are somebody who could knock out 30 reps, making those slight adjustments allows you to do less reps, thus making the exercise a bit more feasible. Overall, if you do not want to include any of these exercises, at least include a variety of exercises in your routine. My friend and head priest of the Stretch Gold, Milo Wolf, has done a few cool videos on exercise selection, including some more unique chest exercises out there. Go check out his channel and see if there's anything else you'd like to include. But wait, you want an easier way to select the most effective chest exercise and have somebody do all the work for you? MyoAdapt.com, our up-and-coming training app that will do all that for you. Want to prioritize chest, specialize on chest, just click it on the app. The app will select the best exercise for you and help you become a fridge-like machine. As I mentioned, I'm personally specializing on chest at the moment because why not YOLO? So that's what I've entered in the app. The app has made a routine that allows me to do so. MyoAdapt.com launching soon. It's taking time. We know, express interest now. Moving on. In addition to chest, you also want to emphasize back training. You want to build both width and thickness. So if you want to look like you lift, having a thick, wide back is pretty much non-negotiable. Unless you're an army and all you look at is arms. A developed back doesn't just make you look good from behind, so you get that trap paw, but it also enhances the entirety of your upper body by making your waist look smaller, giving you a nice V-taper, and overall it gives you that wide look that gets you to look like a lifter. Now, it goes without saying, but if you want to get wider, you need bigger lats. If you want the V-taper, you gotta blast your lats. But you also need to train your upper back pretty hard. That means hitting your traps, rhomboids, and rear delts. A wide back by itself is great, but if it's flat and lacks thickness, it's going to leave things incomplete, and it does take away from that overall, oh, here comes the lifter look. So how do you split up your volume? I'd allocate 60% of your training volume to lat-focused movements, where there's going to be some upper back involvement as well, and the remaining 40% should go to more upper back focused movements like rows and rear delt work. That way you can get the best of every world and absolutely turn heads and look like a thick snack when you walk into places, I guess. For lats, I'd recommend doing some variation of a close-ish grip underhand pull down, meaning like around shoulder width, not close. You can go slightly wider, whatever. If you go super wide, you may be biasing your upper back a bit more. Not the end of the world, but hey, we're trying to absolutely maximize here. This will allow for a great stretch on your lats, obviously some upper back involvement as well, and plenty of bicep work as well, so bang for your buck. Keep in mind, any other lat pull down variation, if it's a machine one or whatever, fair enough. It is an exercise that I personally really like, and I recommend that you include it, or at least give it a try, but don't lose your mind over it. Stay in the 5 to 10 rep range. You can create a pretty stable environment for lat pull downs, and you can really push yourself close to failure and lift heavy weight. I would also include a chest supported T-bar row or chest supported machine row that allows for an upper back biased grip, so you can target your upper back more. These machines will allow you to get a solid stretch on your back and really focus on pushing sets past the point of failure, especially if you've traditionally defined failure as full range of motion failure. On a chest supported machine row, especially if you can push the chest support pad a bit further out, you can get a really solid stretch and really work your back in that stretched position. Now, I would also stay around the 5 to 10 rep range for this exercise. Keep in mind, just a general recommendation. Generally, go pretty heavy and define failure for most of your back training as the point where you cannot perform another partial repetition along muscle length. I would also add some form of bent over row, either with a barbell or a dumbbell. Now, this is more around the optimization, no stone leave unturned side of things to potentially get a bit more work for your erectors. Not that they're going to be doing a ton of work, especially if you're doing a lot of hip hinging exercises, but just for variety's sake, including some form of bent over row, I think makes some sense if you're really trying to get your back to stand out. Similarly to the chest recommendations, I would also have some form of chin up, or at least an assisted chin up if you cannot do more than 5 reps with just your own body weight, and sprinkle some of those around your training program just to get some more back volume in. A potent exercise that could easily be done without you having to think about fatigue, or you could even perform it as a standalone exercise snack throughout the day when you're at home. Solid option, really potent back stimulus, and a cool exercise to progress if you end up falling in love with it. A strong chest and back are great, but without broad shoulders, you're definitely losing some. You're a big guy, comment from random guy at the gas station points. Sure, overhead pressing is great for shoulders, and it's not the end of the world if you're hammering your front delts a bit more. But if you want to really make your shoulders pop, you need to also hammer your side delts. For any overhead pressing you do, I'd say again, stay in the 5 to 10 rep range, potentially slightly closer to the 8 to 10 rep range, just from experience. It may feel a bit more comfortable. As always, ensure that you're taking things very close or to failure. But let's leave overhead pressing aside. Your side delts are calling. With just called you. Pick up the phone, baby. Now, I would recommend doing some form of cable lateral raise that ideally places a lot of tension at the stretch. You can try behind the back lateral raises and adjust the height of the cable pulley so that you're getting the most tension at that stretch. Now, if you have access to some of these really cool side lateral machines that do place a ton of tension at the stretch and allow you to modify the resistance curve of the machine or whatever, perfectly fine as well. Additionally, if you don't have access to a cable pulley, you can use dumbbells and just modify your technique slightly to emphasize that stretch a bit more and get a bigger stretch. For these, I would recommend staying somewhere in the 10 to 15 rep range. For me personally, doing low reps or lateral raises doesn't feel that great. If you like doing lower reps and going heavier for lateral raises, all for it. Lastly, but not leastly, some direct rear delt work, ideally with a rear delt cable crossover, which can allow you to get a really nice stretch for your delts and is a relatively easy exercise to set up. That's just a bit of like an icing on the cake adjustment since you're trying to get as thick and wide as possible. Similar recommendations to the lateral raises, but feel free to experiment with different rep ranges. From experience, slightly higher rep ranges are going to be better, at least from a feeling standpoint.
But what about arms, Dr. Pack? Big arms also give you that look.
Relax.
Since you'll be hitting them already with plenty of volume, just with all the exercises for chest, back, and shoulders that you'll be doing, do 6 to 8 direct bicep and tricep exercises, and that will likely place you near or slightly above the volume recommendations that I gave for all the above muscle groups, which was 15 to 20 fractional sets per week. That said though, I do genuinely think that looking wider and fuller, both from the side and from the back, will give you that signature big guy I lift look. Conversely, I do not think that going YOLO mode and just spamming bicep and tricep work and treating everything else a bit more conservatively makes a lot of sense. So if you're tired of putting in the work and still not looking the part, it's time to switch things up. Focus on the muscle groups that matter most, still train everything else, cut back on leg volume because you can still make gains with 6 to 8 sets per week, and commit to the fucking slow, lean bulk. More volume where it counts equals more growth up to an extent, and if you combine that with a controlled lean bulk, you'll start seeing gains. Was this all about skipping leg day? No, it's not. It's not about skipping leg day. It's about training smarter, not harder, and skipping leg day in the best way possible by doing the least you need to do in order to see meaningful gains. Now, it's all up to you, brother or sister. Go to the gym, focus on what matters, buy Rascal apparel using code DRPAK for 10% off, and I will hopefully see you from a distance because you're gonna be wide as hell. See you guys next time. Orestis Bazooka launches.